Welcome to the Numerology and Astrology for May 8th, 2020. If you add all those numbers together, it's a 17, and if you add the 1 and the 7 together, it's the number 8. The number 8 is the number of grief and loss and sadness in the yogic numerology system, and I know that in the American system it is about financial abundance, and so there are so many systems. There's really 5 systems of numerology, and in the numerology book that if you have a session with me, I give you a PDF copy of my book. What I've done is I've kind of combined sort of the yogic system with the tarot system with sort of some other things that I have learned through numerology in a couple of different ways. So my system is a little bit different than everybody else's system, and so I know that there are people out there going, no, wait, the number 8 is about, abundance and happiness. And I'm like, well, in my experience, usually it's a highly emotional day. And I think that as you learn to handle emotions better and better and better, then you can channel that energy into abundance. But I think that our self-doubt, our past woundings, our fear, our insecurity, our unresolved self-worth issues have a tendency to pull us down and stop us from our potential. So do your best to not let the emotions of this moment and time overwhelm you. It's hard to not feel as if many things in your life are trying to bait you into the darkest places of suffering and sadness that you hold within. It is okay to be sad. Let authentic emotions move through your body. That is how they can be released. It is important as we move towards these very transformational eclipses in June and July, and we continue to allow authentic emotion to move. Clarity comes when things flow, and they will naturally transition into the next level of clarity if you let them. So many hold on to suffering like a hero's badge of honor when they need to be constantly be released and allowed to shift into the next deeper layer of truth. Anger at another is almost always connected to deep wounds around great loss. When they are not released to the appropriate people at the appropriate time, they distort, twist, and lash out at others that do not deserve them, or pop out with the slightest trigger that is similar to the history of pain from the past. Stay aware. Stay awake. Allow your consciousness to notice what is underlying a feeling. Notice if this feeling is historically familiar to you. Healing happens with compassionate permission from your soul to want to understand your deepest self. It is our wounds that fester dark emotional pain, and the denial of those wounds does not allow them to heal. This is a moment when those feelings attempt to arise and give you information. Do that in a safe and conscious way. I always find for myself that I have parts within myself that are wounded, and those parts need to know that they can trust me, and they do that by bringing up a piece of the emotion, not the whole emotion, but a piece of the emotion. And if I can handle that and stay present with that and stay unconditionally loving with that, and not judge the part of myself that is having that feeling in that moment, then that part inside of my subconscious may actually decide to give me more information. I believe that you are not given all the information because most of the time you can't handle it, and most of the time you have a tendency to do a knee-jerk reaction. So why would the universe give you all the information in that moment? So it won't. And so that's why, to me, when something arises, I'm like, notice that. Notice what's arising. It doesn't matter if it's true or not true. If I'm feeling it, I just go with what I'm feeling for whatever reason. And usually if I give myself permission to feel that feeling all the way through, it actually changes. And then I don't feel that feeling anymore. But denying that feeling is never a good idea. Okay. So is anybody else noticing that full moon that was so bright out there? It was light. It was so light outside my window all night. I mean, you could see everything outside in the brightness of the moon. And I hope you all slept well. I slept, but woke up exhausted. And it's amazing how much seems to keep happening in the world, and life is continuing to be incredibly busy even in the quarantine. And I know that the police officers in the fire department and the doctors, the hospitals actually have double staff around full moon. So like a few days before and a few days after, because all hell breaks loose in hospitals and things. And so as a result, it's like full moons stir up our emotional energy. I mean, they stir up a lot of upset for people. And for me, I always notice full moons no matter what I try and do. And granted, I have a Cancer ascendant in my astrology that's ruled by the moon, but it is always interesting that it constantly will impact me to some degree. I know some people it never does, but for me, it does. So the moon goes into Sagittarius as you are sleeping. And it will add to the restlessness and the feelings of inconsistency that seem to keep happening. It is time to educate yourself in some essential ways. So go for the highest that you can in the moment, because many things are trying to tear this world apart. And do not let your energy add to the destruction. Be part of a new evolving solution. The moon in Sagittarius sextiles Saturn in Aquarius. So be deliberate and responsible. Take the time you need to find solid ground before you move. Practical application of all ideas and inspirations is important now more than ever. Notice if you feel that you have taken on too much, and ask if you are wasting energy by looping in circles. I mean, perhaps you are overreaching. Do your best to take things one step at a time. There is a Mercury Chiron semi-square asking you to communicate with clarity and sensitivity. No doubt your inner feelings or gut. You do not doubt your inner feelings or gut. And I know you want to help everyone, but some are not your karmic charge or obligation. If you focus on healing yourself first, then you have something to offer others later. Too often we get distracted from doing our own work by fixating on things that are intentional distractions by darker forces and ego to keep you from discovering your own pathway to enlightenment. There is a Mercury-Pluto trine that will help you see past the illusions that your mind uses to maintain the control and keep your spirit from ascending. My quote for today: May the song in your heart touch the sky. May your love expand beyond the day you die. May your soul know that life is grand. May you have the courage to always stand. Life may not give you what you want. Life teaches you respect and not to taunt. Without respect, you cannot learn. Without love, your soul will always yearn. So, story time. Story time. So, when I was a child, we were traveling to help a family do a physical move in a smaller town in Texas. And after unpacking all the boxes, the kids, which was 3 of us, went wandering on the landscape. And there was this copse of trees far out and away from the homes. And so we were drawn there and attracted to this place because it was, like a wild section in the middle of this empty fields. And as we got there, we realized that it was an old family cemetery from probably a homesteader farmer from the 1800s. In the curiosity that is always children, we wandered through the tombstones and looked at respectfully the clearly hand-carved information on each stone. So these were not professionally written stones. They looked like they had been chiseled by hand. So back then, many children died at a young age from a multitude of things. And in this lovely sacred space, there was that was designed for peace and solitude. There was a presence of something watching us. Not aggressive, more curious also. It felt like a child, one of those children whose tombstones we were looking at. It felt like a girl, and I asked her in my mind why she was still there. And she said she did not know where to go. And I realized that she was somewhat lost and looking for a place to belong. I did not know why she had not gone towards the light, but there was this feeling that someone that was important to her was not buried right there, like her mother. So I asked the angels for her mother and an angel to come and get her. and I ask from a place of heartfelt compassion for this child. And I saw a portal of light open and many people come through. I do not understand why there are moments when the living have a power to call the light that a soul that is deceased does not seem to have. I think that being in a body gives us the ability to direct energy in the physical way, and that we lose that somewhat when we are no longer living. But in the depths of the heart's request that allows to authentically ask for a connection between this reality and the other dimension, magic happens. Directed intention is a power that being human gives each of us. Use that power to do good in the world. I watched that little girl I watched that little girl's face light up, seeing her mother and those that were familiar, and peace settled over the small graveyard, and a light and beauty filtered through the trees and illuminated a small cross made of stone, just with a name on it. And that name was Emma.